I took the night shift at St. Marrow's City Morgue because it paid better and asked fewer questions. The building sat behind the old hospital, a concrete block that smelled of disinfectant and cold metal. On my first night, the day supervisor, Mr. Hale, handed me a single page typed in bold letters. "These are the rules," he said. "Follow them exactly. If something feels wrong, it probably is." There were 4 rules. Rule 1. Never acknowledge movement in a sealed drawer. Rule 2. If a body calls your name, do not answer. Rule 3. At 3:17 a.m., all lights will flicker. Do not look at the mirrors. Rule 4. If the intercom turns on by itself, leave the room immediately. I laughed nervously and asked if this was some kind of joke. Hale didn't smile. He just tapped the paper and walked out, locking the door behind him. The first few hours were quiet. I checked tags, logged temperatures, and tried to ignore the hum of refrigeration units. The morgue felt too still, like the air itself was holding its breath. Around midnight, I heard it. A soft scrape, metal against metal. A drawer slid open an inch. I froze. Rule 1 echoed in my mind. Never acknowledge movement in a sealed drawer. I kept my eyes on the clipboard, pretending not to hear the slow, deliberate sound of the drawer opening wider. The scrape stopped. Silence returned, thicker than before. At 1:40 a.m., I began to relax. Maybe the rules were meant to scare rookies. That's when someone whispered my name. "Daniel." It came from behind me. Rule 2. If a body calls your name, do not answer. My mouth went dry. The voice sounded familiar, like my mother's, gentle and worried. "Daniel," it whispered again, closer this time. I stared straight ahead, heart pounding, counting my breaths. The whisper turned into a sigh, then faded, as if disappointed. At 3:16 a.m., every hair on my body stood on end. I remembered Rule 3. 1 minute later, the lights flickered. The fluorescent bulbs buzzed and dimmed, throwing warped shadows across the tiled floor. Across the room, I saw my reflection in the stainless steel cabinets. I wanted to look. I wanted to check that I was still myself. I squeezed my eyes shut. Something moved behind the glass. I felt it more than saw it, a presence leaning close, studying me. A cold breath brushed my ear, and I felt fingers trace the back of my neck. I didn't move. When the lights steadied again, the pressure vanished. I exhaled shakily, thinking the worst was over. Then the intercom crackled. Static hissed, followed by a wet, gurgling sound, like someone trying to speak through fluid-filled lungs. Rule 4 screamed in my head. If the intercom turns on by itself, leave the room immediately. I ran. The hallway outside the morgue was darker than it should have been. The exit sign flickered, and the doors at the end of the hall were gone. In their place stood rows of morgue drawers, stretching impossibly far. Behind me, the intercom voice grew clearer. "Daniel," it said, "you forgot one." A drawer slid open in front of me. Inside lay a body covered by a sheet. A hand pushed the fabric aside, revealing my own face, pale and slack-eyed. "You broke a rule," it said, my lips moving without breath. "You looked." I stumbled back, shaking my head. "I didn't," I whispered, breaking Rule 2 without thinking. "I didn't look." The lights flickered again. Mirrors appeared where the walls should have been, each one showing a different version of me, older, younger, bloodied, smiling. I realized the truth too late. The rules weren't to protect me. They were to protect what was already here from being noticed. The intercom screamed. Drawers burst open. Hands grabbed my ankles, my wrists, dragging me toward the cold metal. As I was pulled inside, the last thing I saw was the rule sheet taped to the wall, a new line typed at the bottom. Rule 5. If you are reading this, your shift has already begun. The drawer slid shut, sealing the darkness around me, and somewhere above, a new night shift worker clocked in, unaware that the morgue had gained another resident.